This is the Journal Square Development Plan. Section 9 is the Robin Hood Plan, which was approved against the wishes of the people under the Healy administration. This plan calls for a 42-story building in a neighborhood of 1 to 2 family homes.
We've got Councilman Young here, Andy Rivera, Councilman Rivera here, Councilman Rolando here, and I'm going to turn it over in about a minute, let Rolando run it, and this way, but I'm going to give my opinions first of all. And as you all know, I am totally and absolutely against this project. It doesn't belong in our neighborhood. I put out flyers up Magnolia and around some of the island, one block of Courthouse Place. These are the places that are most affected by not only this building that's going to be built, but there's 2 more major projects coming down the block. One is going to be at the Mowers, the other one across the street at that empty lot. They want to put up a 24-story building over there. So I want to see our neighborhood stay as a community and a neighborhood. I don't want to see the traffic, I don't want to see the congestion, our sewers can't handle it. But before I turn it over, I want to just make one thing. They keep on saying, here's the plans that Robin Hood had for the city. And they keep on saying 120 days. It's not incumbent on us in the city council today. It was incumbent upon the prior city council to pass the West Street. And that was in October of 2010 when it started. This is 2015. And in 2012 they had meetings, which was about 3 years ago. The park, as far as the park goes, you will never ever see that park building because that park is going to cost millions of dollars. I've already spoken to the Port Authority, and the Port Authority is probably going to object to any form of park there, and possibly this building also, because it's so close to the railroad tracks. All right, and they keep on saying that on here it says vacation ordinance in accordance with New Jersey statutory and regulatory requirements to vacate all portions of West Street. Well, without West Street, actually, this project can't go through. And they talk about that acreage. I mentioned acreage here. Robin Hood never had acreage. They say they really never owned an acre of property, but it says here, whereas the litigation challenges the adoption on August 25th, 2010 of ordinance number 10103, which inter alia, I don't know what the heck alia means, is creating new zoning criteria for a development initiative known as the Journal Square 2060 redevelopment plan. The property owner has charged that the city substantially downsize the development potential of the property owner's assembled acreage. Well, first of all, that's not our problem. He bought the property and he knew the rules when he purchased the property. And as I said, everything, if you go through here, is 120 days, and now we're into years, all right? And there's a couple other things. You got to go through this whole thing. It's a shame. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't know what went on in the city under the prior administration, but as far as I'm concerned, they had no right whatsoever to go ahead with this and not go to court and fight this 22-story building, of which 6 stories or 5 stories underneath is going to be parking for cars. Let them stay. They want to develop buildings, stay on the west side of Summit Avenue, not on the east side. Stay out of our residential neighborhood. And it's not going to be a fight here. I've been speaking to people up the Heights, up in Rowood, which you're going to, once it starts here, it's going to spread. I've been speaking to people south of here, and we're all tired of it. We want to keep our community. We want to keep our neighborhoods. Look, I'm going to turn this over to Rolando. I'll let him run it. And if you have questions, the attorneys are here.
We thank, at the outset, thank the Hilltop Association for having us. And Father, thank you and St. Joseph's for hosting us tonight. Just some context and background, this all came about, most recently at least came about, because there's an ordinance before the City Council vacating West Street, and in discussions with Councilman Boggiano, we tabled that ordinance with with the understanding that there should be a community meeting so that the community's voices can be heard on this particular development of property, proposed development of property. With that, we're going to turn it over to Edward Colling, who's with Director Robin, and represents the developer and property owner in this for Robin Hood, and he's going to do a presentation, which should be about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions and comments regarding the whole situation.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ed Colling. What we represent is the property owner. He's not a developer, but he does own this property. He's owned it for some time. He has assembled it over many years to the point where it is today. To clarify on the project, and I saw something in the flyer that went around, the development project does not extend from Summit Avenue all the way through to Baldwin. The property that he owns does, but the area that would be developed as the tower is exclusively between Summit Avenue and West Street. The portion of the property that he owns that is east of West Street would be zoned for a 6-story building. That's what surrounds the whole rest of the area. So that was meant to be sort of the buffer between the tower that would face Summit and the portion of the buildings that would go towards Baldwin. The strip of property that the councilman has alluded to, approximately 35,000 square feet, 8/10 of an acre, roughly half a city block, would be dedicated to the city. I believe the deed is already in the city's hands for review. That would become public open space. Yes, it would cost money to develop it, probably in the millions. All parks cost money, and so it would cost additional monies to do that. The ordinance that is before the city council now has nothing to do with the zoning that's been passed by previous councils. It has only to do with the vacation of about 25 linear feet of West Street. Most of the rest of West Street was vacated years ago, and it is vacated today. So I don't know what's the best way to clarify that, but looking at this piece of this map here, the dark red line is the entire property. The green is the part that's going to be dedicated as a park. It goes from the back property line of these properties that front onto West Street all the way through to Baldwin. The blue area is the low-rise area. The red area is the high-rise area. This small piece of red area outside the dark red line is the only piece that's being sought to vacate today. Further buffering the high-rise from the rest of the area is we're calling it the Summit House Plaza. It's 30 feet wide and would buffer the tower space from the Summit House. And then this would be a 20-foot wide pedestrian walkway leading from Summit to the park and then to Baldwin. It would function similarly to what Lowe's Alley functions on the west side of the street. So that's how that would work. The zoning that's in place today shows that the core, which is the red, and this is where the tall buildings have already been approved here, 54, 60, and 70 stories. On the opposite corner of the core, there were 2 other towers approved. I believe they're 50 and 60 stories. The rest of the core is zoned similarly. The yellow area is the area surrounding the core, and that's for the most part 25 stories. And as you can see, along Summit Avenue is not the barrier between the 25-story and the neighborhood to the west. The state office building is zoned for 25 stories. The area between Magnolia and Pavonia on the east side of Summit is zoned for 25 stories, and most of the land between Pavonia and Newark Avenue along Summit Avenue is also zoned for high-rise. The area that we're talking about today is designated District 11 there. That gets broken down this way, that the criteria that applies to the yellow, the zone 3 I believe it is, would apply to the frontage along Summit. And you can see here some pieces of the other yellows that are on the east side of Summit. And then the lower part, the green, is the same as everything else that is zoned in the neighborhood going to the east, and that would remain behind the tower and off to the side of the tower. District 2 is the railroad track right-of-way. There's nothing been designated for that area yet. That's, I guess, future development in terms of what the plan says.
And where you said the green, is that the teal?
The teal. Yeah, I'm sorry. And that's what, and so the District 4, and that's basically how it's zoned now. We do not have a developer. That's in negotiation. There would hopefully be a developer that the property owner would sell it to, and then that developer would then create the plans and have to submit a site plan application. They would have to go through the review of water, sewer, traffic, and all those sort of things. That happens at that stage. Right now, we are just past the zoning and into that street vacation section that I was mentioning. And that's pretty much where we stand today.
Let's get something straight. When you talk with the map, most people, you can't understand that. The development was supposed to stay west of Summit Avenue, not east of Summit Avenue. And this project is east of Summit Avenue, right? Now, when you go west of Summit Avenue, they're building the KRE buildings. Nobody objected to them. Nobody cared, really. But when you come east of Summit Avenue, you're into our local neighborhood. You're behind people's houses. And when you said that piece of property, that park, you didn't tell the people that the city doesn't develop it within 7 years. It goes back to the owner.
Not true.
And it's in the paperwork. Don't tell me it's not true. It's in the paperwork. And I'll tell you right now, that park can never be developed. That is a disaster over there. That the prior administration never, ever should have allowed this farce to go through.
Are you familiar with it, or?
The stipulation?
The stipulation.
It says it right in there, Jeff.
I wasn't sure what you
So,
were.
as we address that question, or just address that fact, I'd like to, John Jarima.
Can I finish my question?
Yes.
7.5 years. It's right there in
Okay,
the contract.
Councilman.
Okay?
Mr. Jarima is gonna, did I say that correctly?
Yes. Did you find it?
Yeah, it's right there.
So after 7 years, it's going to return back to the
7.5
current
years.
owner.
The city cannot even fix Pershing Field, cannot even fix the parks on Van Wagenen because there's no money. So there's no way they're going to spend millions filling in that land and fixing it. And then you have the horror of a kid falling over the railroad tracks. What are they going to have to do, put up high walls?
So the attorney can answer it better than I. But my understanding is that the developer does not develop his piece of property. I think in there there's a stipulation, the agreement that they could use it for staging of materials. If they don't within a certain period of time, they lose that right. I don't remember anything in the settlement agreement about the property reverting to the owner.
For everyone, this is Jeff Wanger with the Planning Department. And we also have, and she's just settling in, so we'll give her a minute to settle in. Diana Jeffrey with our Law Department of the City of Jersey City. There's a question with regard to, or comment, rather, it's not really a question, a statement of fact of whether there's the property for the park would revert back to the owner after 7.5 years if it's undeveloped.
If the city
It's right
cannot
there.
make a decision.
But this says, in no event shall 27 be available to the property owner and its successors after a period of 7.5 years. After 7.5 years, it's not that it reverts to the property owner 27. He has no rights to use that portion of 27. He had asked to have the property available before it became a park, that if the building was being constructed, he would stage his construction materials there. If after a certain period of time he did not perform to go into construction, he would lose that right.
No, that's not the way that...
Okay, well, bring it to the Law Department's attention so that they, you don't have to answer it right now, but it's an issue that should be addressed. Mr. Jarima, my apologies. Please continue with your question.
My question is that there's going to be a 42-story building next to Summit Avenue.
Yes.
How many units are going to be in that facility, and how many parking units are going to be in that facility?
It's only the zoning. I don't know. The developer would have to come in with a site plan application.
How much plans do you have in the planning zone? Did you have a plan? for the 42 building?
There is no plan.
We're
There are no
developers.
plans.
There are no plans, so you don't know how many units are going to be there in the 42-story building, and you have no idea
We're
how
not
many
the
parking
developers.
spaces are going to be in those 42 stories.
If I may jump in here, there is no site plan application currently filed with the city. Sorry. So again, these three people over here represent the current property owner of this site, and that property owner was involved in litigation with the city that produced this settlement agreement.
Right.
They are not the eventual developers of the site. They currently own it.
Right.
They have put it on the market.
And they will get to the
I
buyer.
assume there's a buyer out there that is going to be purchasing this. That buyer will then file a site plan application with the city where they file architectural drawings with the planning department and show them to the planning board. We're not at that stage yet. So there's no way today to tell you the exact number of units or how many parking spaces or whether there'll be 2 or 3 bedrooms. We can't know that yet because nobody has designed this building yet.
Right.
So the only thing you know is that there's going to be a 42-story building,
Correct.
and there's going to be small developments behind that.
Right, so the
Like
only
6
thing that
stories.
has happened
But
so
you have no
far.
idea how many units are going to be there. No idea how many parking spaces are going to be there. Because in this area, parking is terrible. And you're going to take that parking space on Summit Avenue, 500 Summit Avenue, 2 parking spots there on West Street, and on Summit Avenue, 500, and that's going to be gone. And the council just passed the parking away from the city hall on Academy Street and Summit Avenue, so that parking is gone too. So where is these 42-story building residents, probably about 5 per unit, per floor, which is about, what, 200 units?
No, more than that.
Where are they going to park?
More than that, Jay.
So the site is plenty large enough to accommodate a parking deck. Again, because there's no architectural plans that have been filed with the city, I don't know what the total number of parking spaces the eventual developer of the site will want to build. Presumably there will be, typically most of the projects that we get typically come in with about 50% parking.
It's already green space. It's filled with raccoons, skunks, you name it, it's out there, including 2 hawks. And I actually let the 2 people 3 years ago who decided that they were going to assess the integrity of that property get onto it through my backyard because there's no safe way to negotiate the drop and the ledge. I can only imagine millions of dollars that it would take to develop that into a park. And I'm trying to envision a walkway that would go from the back of West Street to Baldwin Avenue. How would that ever even be configured? It drops off. I mean, just because something is engineeringly possible doesn't mean that it should be doable. So for me, I really need to know who the players are here, because I don't think it's Robin Hood.
The tax records of the city show the Robin Hood corporate entity. We've sort of shortened, it's a long name, but we've kind of just shortened it to Robin Hood, is the current owner. They may have contracted to sell it, they may have not have closed on that yet, until that's actually filed on the deed. Today the tax records show them as the property owner.
Well, I hope the person who's going to be purchasing this property knows they're going to have a fight from day one, and they better be ready for it, because as you can see here, this is only a partial part of the neighborhood.
So it's just, looks great, it's the carrot in the package, oh, we're giving a park to the community, to allow them to market the property with an additional 17 stories on it. And the other issue in terms of West Street, the reason for the vacating there, I'm sure that would be an area used as a loading dock for the commercial space that'll be at the bottom of this building, all of which will be coming down Magnolia Avenue to access through West Street, where we already have a nursing home that has countless major tractor trailers going down there. I mean, quality of life would be dramatically affected.
One of you like, oh, when do
There's no architect.
Okay, I just had construction done at my house. And I had to get a structural engineer because, like the lady over here said, those are 1, like 2 family houses. Now you're coming in and you're building all these things, and these are, you know, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect, but from the little that I've learned, these houses are not going to withstand all the stuff that you guys are planning to do. Are you guys putting some money together? Because you're going to pay for my house when it comes down.
Prior to the Journal Square redevelopment plan, the zoning for Journal Square for the site was 11 stories. The redevelopment plan, the Journal Square redevelopment plan, downsized it to 6 stories. The developer, or I should say the owner, sued the city by what's called an unfair taking, meaning that he was entitled to 11 stories, the city took 5 stories away from him, and he was entitled to be compensated. The city, in the previous administration, decided from the very beginning of those negotiations that they would not fight this in court. And they decided from the very beginning that they were going to settle whatever the agreement would have been, which was a mistake. The statement that you made, an 11-story building on this site would not have been sellable because it would have been a long, square building with no views and just overlooking the railroad. Indeed, it becomes a lot more sellable, a lot more valuable to go up. I spoke against this agreement last year with city planning, the mayor's office, and the city council, and I was on record for that. We couldn't stop it because this was the settlement that the city decided to do. All we got was, I worked with Laura Stolar, Charlene Burke, to force the city to make the owners at least do an environmental assessment of the land that they were donating to the city for the park. Because everybody here is right. That is not a buildable park at this point in time.
So what are our citizens here, our rights to fight this? Because we are all here agreeing that this is not going to be the right thing for this neighborhood. And it seems to me that Robin Hood is only interested in getting every kind of clearance they can to make the most profit in selling this property. They're not interested in how it will be developed or what's going to happen after they left. It's just to make money. So what can we do? We're the taxpayers and the voters here. What can we do when there's a mistake made? Oh, I don't think it's a done deal. I think we should have rights to change that. What can we do? I'm asking you as city council president.
Sure. So what I'll say is I would consult with the law department, but I would also say this probably would be prudent that if you take that course of action, to have that conversation in front of the property owners and developers and reveal what the strategy might be.
But they're not telling us.
No, but I'm saying, if the city were to take a position to fight against it, I wouldn't want to reveal the strategy to the property owners who are sitting here in front of me, right? So I'm happy to have that conversation offline and discuss that with you, but it's probably not prudent to have that right here.
Let me say one other thing. I hear about the cost of developing a park, and of course, it's an enormous cost. But there's development that's going to be happening in Journal Square as a consequence of redevelopment. And this developer, along with its neighbors, Kushner and everybody else who's putting up massive projects in Journal Square, can be, I believe, through an ordinance, assessed for a portion of what it will cost to develop this park. It's not going to happen overnight, but you can put, as one of the organic things you can do as a city, you can put on the books a form of a special assessment which will create a fund to develop.
That's not doable, considering that KRA's already got the approval. It's the responsibility of Robin Hood and the developers to do that land. That's the right thing.
They have a 91 redevelopment plan, something most people don't know. Even though we understand first place, city council, every time new ordinance come in, they continue amend. So that was to happen this month. And even, as you say, we have the settlement because the city, when they go filing at the court, they always come to us, the city council, cost of law. Let's settle the case. And what's going to be happen? Whoever buy land, they're going to come down to us. We need a tax abatement. When the city council say no, then say, listen, all the building built John Square 2060 plan, they got tax abatement. Why I'm not? You see? So what's going to be happening now at the end of the day? They're going to get what they're looking for. Only one way we can fight this administration. But now today, City of Jersey, as a new mayor of Stiflo, listen, former government, yes, or you should prove that, but this is going to have a serious issue to traditional residents in this area. So I'm going to go fight to court till we die. Then it makes difference. You know what I'm saying? So now what I can say that City Council, here is Richie Bojano is here, I'm here, Daniel Rivera, Joyce Waterman, Council President here. But 2 years later, when we are all gone, and the new guys come in, new council, new administration, they say, we never heard your complaint, let's move on. So you know what? While our mayor is here, Stiflo, and your role and our role, press the mayor, fight till last drop. That's only can solve the problem. So please, they're going to promise a lot, the park, this, that. And always we see that 2 years experience council, when the administration change, they never say that. And when you try to get the money, forget about it. Take 4, 5, 10 years. One of the gentlemen, Barry knows, can you see his joke? How long it took that they build up the 100 steps?
Oh, God.
Oh, God. Many years, right? Yes. So please, we only can solve this problem. We, as a neighbor, make one strong voice. Tell the mayor, this is what we're looking for. We want you, mayor, to fight for the people of Jersey in this neighborhood. They make a difference.
That's right.
You know, please. Okay. When they reason build up the high-rise building, why they change, amended the regional plan? Because land is limited. Only one way they can maximize their profit. They don't care about you. When you go higher and higher, they increase their profit more and more. So they don't care about you, they don't care about us, they only care about themselves.